Rick Perry's on the stump up in Adam early this morning. He's going to be here live in 45 minutes down there in South Carolina. There is a new law in that state that requires voters to show an ID when voting, a photo ID. Now, the Justice Department is challenging state Republicans on that law, and this could be important here. Alan Wilson's the Attorney General. He's live down there in Columbia, South Carolina. And, sir, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Why is this an issue in the first place?
Well, first off, when the law was originally written, it was written to protect citizens from fraudulent activity in the electoral process. It is important that the voters of our state have faith in the process by which we elect our leaders. So that was its original intent.
What, but is there evidence that 900 dead people have voted in South Carolina?
Well, that's right.
Is that part of your case?
Last several Well, that's right. Well, when we were going through the process of getting this law pre-cleared with the Department of Justice, we provided numbers that showed that this would have a minimal effect on minority voters, the elderly, and of course, our opponents of this bill said that this is in search of a solution or search of a problem that doesn't exist. Well, subsequently, we found out that there were over 900 people who died and then subsequently voted. That number could be even higher than that, Bill. So this is just an example, one of many examples. In fact, we also have data that suggests that there are 91,000 people on our voter registration rolls who no longer live in South Carolina and are in fact registered as a resident in another state, but they are still registered to vote here.
That could be an issue. Georgia has a law, right? Indiana has a law, and they have not been challenged by the Department of Justice. What's different there as opposed to South Carolina's law?
Well, the Department of Justice upheld or pre-cleared Georgia's law about 4 or 5 years ago, and the United States Supreme Court upheld Indiana's law back in 2007. What you basically have, you have the Department of Justice denying the citizens of South Carolina the protections of a bill that the United States Supreme Court upheld for the citizens of Indiana. It's a double standard, and it blows my mind that the Department of Justice sees that this could be a potential suppression. The only thing we want to suppress here in South Carolina is fraud in our election system.
All right, they opponents, as you mentioned this, they suggest you're keeping minorities from voting. They also suggest you're wasting time and money. What do you say to them?
Well, it's a convenient argument that they fall back on when you have 900 people. You remember, before they said there was no evidence of voter fraud. Now you have over 900 people. That number could climb, but you have over 900 people who are deceased in voting. So now we're falling back on the argument that it's suppression or discrimination. This is the same standard we use to allow people into a federal building, show a photo ID, or get prescription medication. This is not an unreasonable request. And remember, everyone has to register to vote. Why not put a photo on the registration card or have them show a photo ID?
Well, you need a photo ID to buy Sudafed here in New York City, and that's not a prescription medication. How would you make sure that voters in South Carolina can access a photo ID easily? What's the process? Well,
first off, there are about, I think, 5 ways they can get a photo identification that allowed by law. But if you do not have a photo ID due to some reasonable impediment, due to your age, due to some infirmity, you can sign an affidavit there at the poll when you go vote. It's a boilerplate affidavit. It'll be there.
I see. Or you could go to the DMV or you could go to the DMV ahead of time and get one for free. Is this relevant to the primary 9 days from now?
Even if you don't have a photo ID, you can still vote. Most people don't recognize that or understand that. We still protect that right if you can sign an affidavit showing that there was a reason why you couldn't get a photo ID before the election.
All right. So I'm sorry, but again, is this relevant to the primary in 9 days?
Well, this is relevant to the electoral process from henceforth evermore. Obviously, we wanted to have it in place for the primary, but we want it in place, period, for 20 years from now.
Alan Wilson, thank you for your time. We'll see which side wins in the end. 19 past. Martha?